Look up what Rob Bonta's first response was to why he spent the money. He said, I spent it because the allegations against Sheng Thao were so serious, I wanted to supplement the investigation with a little bit more investigation.
Who hires private attorneys to assist the FBI in an investigation?
The Attorney General of California said that he needed some extra help.
I mean, it's not just about money. It's about damn accountability.
It's about accountability.
The bureaucracy is real.
Because at the end of the day, we want to hold people accountable.
Accountability, accountability, accountability.
If you break these laws, you will be held accountable.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Accountability Podcast with John Phillips and Randy Wang.
This is our weekly tribute to the most meaningless word in the English language, accountability, something that politicians say over and over and over and over again, and it means nothing.
And this week, boy, do we have a special guest for you. He's the host of the Gotham, Oakland podcast, which you can get on YouTube. He's also the man who is behind the recall of former Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao and is possibly the most knowledgeable person on planet Earth when it comes to Oakland politics, Mr. Seneca Scott. Seneca, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back, John. Always good to be here.
So when it comes to Oakland politics, I always tell people you're essentially clairvoyant because you see these things coming long before they actually happen. And it's not because you have some sort of special gift where you can see into the future. You just listen when other people don't. And oh boy, is there a story unfolding in Oakland when it comes to the former mayor who you helped kick out of office, Sheng Thao, and the dominoes that are falling right and left thanks to her indictment and her trial, upcoming trial, that the federal government is putting her up on. So let's go ahead and start with the trial and Sheng Thao, because Sheng Thao, as I mentioned, is the disgraced former mayor of Oakland. She's now looking at essentially the rest of her life in prison due to a corruption scandal that you helped uncover. She is now trying to get evidence in that case thrown out that she says is prejudicial to the defense. And a lot of that evidence that she's trying to get thrown out is, regarded as essentially salacious because we're talking about pictures and videos of politicians that may be engaged in activity that they wish they hadn't engaged in. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning. Sheng Thao now standing trial, and the dominoes are falling. What should we know about this trial, and what should we know about what she's trying to do right now?
Well, that's a pretty expansive question, but let me key in, John, on what you just said. They actually were successful, the defense, in getting evidence tossed out. And what it looks like is that they came in with, I don't know how much, a treasure trove of evidence, let's say 1,700 files or exhibits. And the judge knocked it down to 500 exhibits. And the majority of what the judge tossed out was videos and clips and footage from the Vietnam trip. And the reason she tossed that is because it could put other people who are not indicted or facing any prosecution. It could jeopardize or harm their careers, and it had no fundamental bearing on the corruption charges. This is according to the judge, right? And so what it looks like is they were trying to get the exhibits down to be able to have his trial quickly, because the more exhibits that you have, the longer the trial goes, because once they are admitted into evidence, then there have to be, witnesses on both sides and then experts, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think what's happening, and what most people who are knowledgeable about law, is that the judge is cutting it down to what is actually needed to make your case. And we don't need all of this extra stuff just to show that Andre was partying hard or things like that. So it looks like all that's in there is the Vietnam stuff. And remember, this is about evolutionary homes. This is about pay for play. And Vietnam doesn't have much to do with that, according to the courts.
One of the things that Sheng wanted to get thrown out was The situation where years ago she lied about Andre having a job with her sister's cannabis consulting company so they could get a lease for a house. And prosecutors wanted that because it shows a pattern of behavior. One of the things with the Evolutionary Home scam that was being run on the city of Oakland was her boyfriend, Andre Jones, was going to get a $300,000 no-show job. And that was the way they would launder the money for all of the proceeds from these shipping containers. But they didn't want that to be shown. They thought that would be presidential towards her, but it seems like they got plenty of stuff to get her dead to rights anyway on this scam.
Yes, that is correct. Also, remember, Andre used to park himself at Sheng Thao's office. How do I know that? He posted a picture of me after I was berating a local soggy journalist. I wouldn't even call him a journalist, a local soggy hack. And then he took a picture and said, here's Seneca yelling at this guy from Sheng's office, which is evidence that he was there and surveilling someone on city time and city property. But here's something I thought of the other day, guys. Here's something I thought of the other day. Where is our public ethics department in Oakland, whose number one priority is government corruption? How come they filed nothing about any of this? If the source of the information came from FBI raids on City Hall and elected officials. Remember Simon Russell, well, you may not know this, but Simon Russell, the head of Oakland's Public Ethics Commission or Department for several years, left abruptly right before Sheng got recalled or right after. My memory's a little fuzzy on that one, but right around that time of the recall, citing corruption as one of the reasons. But Simon Russell is the corrupt one. I can tell you because I have personally been persecuted and faced numerous charges, including an open public ethics investigation into the recall from 2 years ago that we were raising money illegally. And it's still open. They never closed it, even though judges have called it unconstitutional, the amount of harassment we face from our own public ethics commission. So where's any of these charges? Some of these people still work for the city of Oakland. I'll give you another one. Remember any evidence when they said that Andy Duong was on the phone with an Oakland City Council member and said, don't worry about the recall, we'll handle that? Who was that council member? I'll tell you who it was. It was Carol Fife.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, Carol Fife. If I'm lying, sue me. It was Carol Fife. You heard it. I'll say it 3 times. It was Carol Fife, who has gone around the city spreading lies and gossip about the recall, whose name is mentioned twice in that leaked memo calling Black people tokens, giving her instruction on what to do in order to facilitate that mission. Where's our public ethics department? If you have knowledge that a city contractor who still has the contract for a waste solution is saying that they're going to do something to infringe on someone's First Amendment rights, you're supposed to go report that to public ethics that a city vendor's doing that. Fife probably cackled and laughed and said, yeah, good. But guess what? It didn't work. They didn't stop the recall. No one ever approached me ever with any bribes or any offers or any attempts to negotiate that recall because they knew I'm not corrupt. You can't buy me off. They didn't even try because I would have put a camera on them and said, say that again? Remember like that singing in Wolf of Wall Street when he was like, can you say that again real slowly for me? Anyway, I like I said, guys, this is a mess. But are we talking about Bonta? What's up, baby? I got notes.
Okay, well, let's start out with going through the charges against Sheng. What is being alleged that Sheng did when she was mayor of Oakland?
It's being alleged that she took money for pay-for-play, and particularly this FBI case seems to center around Evolutionary Home, which was a whole deal. Now, Evolutionary Home, guys, we'll be here forever. I have a lot of stuff I can't really say yet because we're going to be coming out with it. But the Evolutionary Home scam started years before 2022. As soon as Carol Fife was elected, she was trying to get that army base. And all of the homeless encampment people seemed to always know where the sweeps were and would show up to protest because they were getting that information leaked to them from Carol Fife. And so they were trying to manufacture this situation where it looked like closing encampments failed. And so they would have to have this place to go in Wood Street. I mean, in the army base. right? So the Army base was the place where they were trying to get Evolutionary Home. And Fife was pushing the Army base super hard. So much that Ed Reskin, Oakland City Administrator, had to just shut it down and say, hey, it's toxic. We're not putting people there. So why would Carol Fife want to put people in a Superfund site that's toxic? But she backed CEQA extortion attempts against Black developers trying to build affordable housing in her own district. She regularly uses environmental concerns to stop things that she doesn't like ideologically, but then she looks the other way to put actual poor people in a place that's a toxic waste site that's slated to be the new place for the recyclers to put so they don't keep poison in West Oakland. But anyway, let me get back on track here. So she was trying to get those container homes. And then you have everything's about Larry Gallegos, Harold Duffy. Remember, I caught all of this on my podcast. If you watch Gotham Oakland, you already know what's going on. So Evolutionary Homes was a scam to put 300 or whatever shipping containers onto a site for the homeless. And they would be buying these homes from Mario Juarez and the Duong family. I'm sorry, Mario Juarez, who bought them. So the Duong family was also involved with this whole thing. There's a lot more to it, but Evolutionary Home seems to be the biggest thing that they're keying in on. Why is that important? Every single person on that witness list, if you look at most of them, either they work at Evolutionary Home or in the witness list, it says they're going to be asking them questions about Evolutionary Home. But Kaplan, who also was involved, who 3 of her former chiefs of staff are witness, Sheng Thao herself, Andre, and Julie Wedge, a former chief of staff for Rebecca Kaplan, who was absolutely involved with Evolutionary Homes planning. And then Carol Fife, the council person who pushed it the hardest and who also was connected the most to the recall, fighting against the recall attempt, are not witnesses because they're not cooperating. That's why, because they know they're guilty too. And again, I'm accusing people of crimes here. I'm waiting. I'm watching my mailbox with these libel letters. Because yeah, Carol Fife and Rebecca Kaplan are absolutely complicit in these crimes as well. So I hope that justice prevails and we get, what's that word again, Johnny? We get
accountability.
All right, now let's rewind the tape even farther, because prior to Sheng Thao being formally indicted and formally, I guess, having her home raided, she claims that she was told that she was not the subject of the investigation. She's been very consistent the entire time. Her attorneys have said the same thing. She has said the same thing. For someone who I think, many people, including maybe us, would regard her as dishonest, she's been very consistent about that. And I actually believe her. Do you believe her when she says that she was not the subject of this investigation?
I believe that maybe the FBI told her that early on, but cops lie all the time to people to get them to trip themselves out. So, okay. I mean, the cops are allowed to lie to you to get you to admit guilt or whatever. So maybe it happened. Sure. I don't think it has. I think the only thing to look into that is she the real target? And is she now the focus of the charges because she didn't play ball like Mario Juarez did when she had the opportunity? I don't have any information. That's a question, a legitimate question that I also have.
Yeah, she's fighting this. And, the other people that are implicated in the Evolutionary Home scam, Mario Juarez, he's cooperating. He's pled. Brian Acevedo, our buddy from San Leandro, who may have done the worst interview of all time when Dan Noyes went to his house, he is pled and he is cooperating. She's trying to fight this, but there is a lot of people who are talking to the feds who know all about what was going on with this scam that they try to do all across Alameda County.
I mean, I've heard names from Berkeley that they were supposed to be charged, and I'm not going to say his name because he was never charged. I don't want to cast any aspersions, but yeah, it was countywide. This was something that was a thing, right? Let's take advantage of the homeless industrial complex and let's get a bunch of shipping containers we bought dirt cheap and get the city to pay us millions for them so we could put people into these shipping containers, which they call coffins, by the way. If you go to tiny home sites in Oakland, they call them coffins. because of a lack of ventilation. They've got, but these aren't the best places to live, especially if you're just throwing people who are still addicted and have mental health issues there without actually providing wraparound services, which was never also in the plan. Which is why Oakland, every single tiny home site that they start closes usually 2 years later, at the most 3 years later, and it's usually dysfunctional and drugs are being sold. You've had overdoses and fires, fights, and murders.
You mentioned Mario Juarez, and he was the initial whistleblower who reached out to the federal government. And in his letter, he described the owners of California Waste Solutions as operating almost like a Jeffrey Epstein type of operation, where they would provide essentially dirty massages, sexual favors for politicians, and then they would collect compromat on them. And we know that that is true because the San Jose Mercury News authenticated it. Now there's a big fight going on right now in court over which ones would be admitted. We talked about that at the beginning of the podcast. However, they don't name the specific politicians. I guess Acevedo was named with one of them. But the other politicians were not named. In the letter that Mario Juarez wrote to the federal government, he specifically said they had compromat on California Attorney General Rob Bonta. He named him. And that's something that has not been authenticated specifically to Bonta, but we also know that Bonta spent something close to $500,000 from his campaign account on attorneys when he testified, or I guess when he spoke to the federal government about what he knew about whatever is going on in this trial. Can you speak to that?
Still trying to figure out what he spent them on, combination to. So as we've said before, we do know that Sheng Thao has a very, very expensive attorney named Jeffrey Tsai, who not only is expensive, he's well connected. He is in the same law firm as former Vice President Kamala Harris's husband. And he's known for handling very serious corruption cases and pleading out and structuring plea deals. And it costs $1 gazillion. Sheng is poor. Who's paying? And why? That's one theory. Another is he's lawyering up himself because he's worried about being charged eventually after everyone, as a result of this investigation bears more fruit, there may be potential charges for the Bontas. And I think that he's worried about that as well. And maybe he's getting lawyered up himself. Regardless of what he spent it on, what's important, because what's that word, the theme of the day again?
Accountability.
What's important is that he blatantly lied the first time he was asked a question about what was he spending the money on. And there was no accountability for telling such an egregious lie. None whatsoever. And then he investigated himself and found that he did nothing wrong.
He also has a long-time relationship with the owners of California Waste Solutions. Could you talk about Bonta's relationship with that family, the Dongs?
Yes. So I've got it right here.
It's a long and fruitful relationship. We know that.
So this is $172,316 from one family, roughly 30 times what the Duongs gave to anyone else. You want to know who the next biggest expenditure name was? Who the Duongs gave a lot of money to?
I'm going to guess
Who?
Mia.
No, Barbara Lee, Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee.
Oh.
Who did not give it back. Bonta returned the bond. So the Duongs gave Bonta $155,000 and the couple $172,000 combined against a typical per politician average of about $5,000. Andy Duong allegedly generated at least 93 fraudulent contributions, straw donor contributions. Remember, Sheng Thao was also accused of having straw donor contributions. Sheng Thao had max donation from about 100 family members who worked at Walmart 4 states away. But not a single dollar came from any of her family facing a recall. She couldn't raise any money. So all of those Walmart workers who had $1,000 to spare, even though 50% of America right now doesn't have $1,000 for a family emergency, didn't want to support her to help save her job during a recall. Yes, straw donation. That's alleged here too. And then there's also, they offer, I'm sorry, my copy's a little small here. They operated with individuals and entities linked to Music Cafe, an Oakland karaoke lounge that state agents raided for narcotic sales, prostitution, and drug trafficking related activity. The Duongs own that. That's their little compromise factory.
Oh, that's where Andy shoots all the videos.
That's the Diddy Party factory, the Duong Party factory. So documents and campaign reports show these funds reaching the campaigns of California Attorney General and a state legislature. Bonta returned the money to charity after the raise. So he donated the money to charity. He didn't return it to the Duong family. Anyway, so why did he refund the money? What happened? And why did they give so much to Rob Bonta, more than anyone else? And then look at the continuity of leadership. The next biggest donor is to Barbara Lee, who replaced Sheng Thao, because like I said, Barbara Lee is Sheng Thao 2.0 in every way, every single way.
Well, she's less funny.
That's true. That's true.
Well, and people
absolutely.
Well, people forget, before Rob Bonta became the Attorney General, he was the assemblyman from Oakland. And not only did he have a relationship with all of these people, California Waste Solutions, Sheng Thao, where he officiated her swearing in, but so did his wife, Mia Bonta, who is now the assemblywoman from Oakland.
Hello?
Yeah.
That was the question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say it again. I missed the question part.
Not only did Rob Bonta, was he the assemblyman from Oakland and have a long-time relationship with Sheng, with California Waste Solutions, Mario Juarez, so many of these people that we've talked about, but his wife is now the assemblywoman from Oakland, and she has relationships with all of these people.
I mean, I've got stuff on Mia too. Want to hear it?
Sure.
Oh, we'd love to hear it.
So Mia Bonta's AB 2624, which passed Assembly, which the Nick Shirley Act. You guys know about that, right? After getting looked into, she rushed to pass that. But that's not the big one. Let's talk about Oakland Promise. You know what Oakland Promise is? Oakland Promise is a nonprofit started by former Mayor Libby Schaaf, which was charged with significant and serious public ethics charges maybe 2 years ago or so. You guys might want to look that up. Guess who the CEO of Oakland Promise was? Mia Bonta.
Oh boy, this goes back to all of there was this massive story in Cal Matters in February of 2020, right before COVID, so nobody paid attention to it, about the trail of nonprofits and steering businesses and making Mia the CEO of all of these nonprofits. Bonta has been pulling this scam for years and years and years. This was before he got appointed to be Attorney General, which people are still wondering how that happened.
So I'll give you more. This nonprofit filed IRS Form 990s using duplicate or unauthorized EINs belonging to another entity. And they also never filed the proper paperwork with the state. So Rob Bonta's wife's CEO's nonprofit that never filed paperwork with the state went unscathed. But Seneca Scott Me, whose nonprofit that raised less than $200,000 that never filed the same paperwork with the state, which is my bad. I had an accountant who didn't do what they're supposed to do because he was a volunteer and I didn't know much about nonprofits, which, sure. But they get public funds and they get no charges, but I get mine shut down by Rob Bonta himself with total scorched earth lawfare. because I was messing with his little pet in Oakland, Sheng Thao. Yeah, these people are deeply corrupt, but it's time America wake up. There's so much evidence here. They will never face any public scrutiny or accountability because they can't defend the indefensible.
Do we know what questions Rob Bonta was asked when he spoke to the federal government and spent $500,000 on attorneys?
Partially, he was asked why he spent the money, which again goes back to his first answer was a lie. Look up what Rob Bonta's first response was to why he spent the money. He said, I spent it because the allegations against Sheng Thao were so serious, I wanted to supplement the investigation with a little bit more investigation.
Who
Blatant
hires
lie.
private attorneys to assist the FBI in an investigation?
The Attorney General of California said that he needed some extra help. Look it up, right?
I remember it.
He completely changed his story when people were like, yeah, that's illegal. You can't have law enforcement operations done by private lawyers who you hire. Oh, no, actually, I didn't do that. Let me get a do-over. I actually was just making sure I was okay. Some vague answer. You don't get a do-over. The Attorney General of California just blatantly lied to us about $500,000 spent from its own campaign funds, and it was, oh well, I guess that's how we do things around here. I'm so freaking pissed about this stuff. Like, but look, I know everybody in California should be upset. But me personally, I have personally had my life, my finances, my friends, my reputation destroyed. This is a clear First Amendment violation from some of the most powerful people in the world who control one of the biggest economies in the world. And I have stood my ground against these people with nothing but the truth and my freaking balls and help from people like you guys who also are brave because no one else wants to talk about this stuff. No one wants to talk about it. The Attorney General of a state of California using $500,000 and lying about it from his own campaign fund. That's campaign finance violation. Every single person who goes against the progressive movement in California gets scorched earth lawfare. We get charged with everything. We have to be fucking perfect. And they get to do this crap time and time again, and then we expose them on our podcast, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing ever happens. So, something better happen. Because like I said before, when the First Amendment is ignored, get ready for the second.
What do you think? Why do you think the newspapers, why isn't this on the front page of the LA Times? Why isn't this on the front page of the Sacramento Bee? Why isn't this, as a potential candidate for governor, why isn't this on the front page of the New York Times?
I'm about to ask you that question. Why do you think? I'm flipping it back on you. Uno reverse.
I can't figure it out because it's not like this is secret information that no one has. Everything that we've talked about is not only in the public domain, but has been in the public domain for quite some time. So it's not like we're finding Easter eggs that no one else knows exist. This is information. Now, I will give credit to the San Jose Mercury News. They did an excellent report recently that talked about a lot of what we're talking about today. But the big newspapers in the state really haven't been making a meal out of this.
I'll tell you why. Stop Nick Shirley Act. Rob Bonta's relentless lawfare. Paramount merger blocking. These people have shown total willingness to abuse their power to keep their power. And America's full of punks. We're cowards in this country. Complacency breeds contempt. Our complacency over our sacred First Amendment rights that people fought and died for, our complacency over voting that particularly Black people had to fight and die for myself to have the right to vote, our complacency has become contemptuous of our own democracy, of our own salvation. And now you have contemptuous nation of America across the country. That's all I can get is a philosophical answer. I can't put my fear, simply put. People are afraid. Do not be afraid is in the Bible 365 times as a daily reminder that fear is the enemy. You don't have to be a Christian to understand the lesson in one of the most oldest and revered pieces of literature known to man. Fear
Is
is how
someone
you get control. I'm sorry, John. I was on
no
one, but I'm mad today,
yeah.
man.
No,
I'm
I can
upset.
tell.
You made me
Seneca's
mad.
fired up.
You made me mad, man.
Are you concerned that they're going to try to put you in jail for something?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's like 6'7" for adults, you know. Yeah,
It is the secret language of this show.
I'm concerned. I don't live in fear. I'm concerned, yes.
We have a Republican administration in Washington who has certainly gone after public corruption in California. It is their Justice Department, although I assume the investigation probably started under Biden, that went after Sheng Thao and what's going on right now in the East Bay. We have another investigation going on in Sacramento involving the former chief of staff of Gavin Newsom, Dana Williamson, Sean McCluskey, the former chief of staff of Javier Becerra, and one other. It seems as if this is something that the federal government would be willing to pursue if it's on their radar.
Got Fang.
Fang too, yes. So it seems like they're willing to go after some of these sacred cows, but they haven't gone after Bonta yet.
I don't know, man. Like I said last time, this is oligarch level decisions. These decisions are made far above even what we can conceive what the motivation is sometimes. Right? Maybe there's a reason for why Bonta and the continuity of power to exist in California for certain people to continue doing what they want to do. I have no idea, and I don't care. I don't freaking care anymore. These people need to be exposed. This is the most important thing we do in America is eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. We have enough money in America. We are a wealthy country. We can afford every entitlement program we want. Single-payer health care done. Reparations done. You want to get transsexual surgery after 18? Done. We can afford all of that if you want, regardless of how you feel about those policies. They're easily affordable if we were to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, which is, by estimate, taking over 50% of taxpayer money. And we're seeing it. Naked corruption in the state of California. We pay the most for taxes and get the least. It is time for a revolution. People need to be a lot more upset. If you're not mad now, when will you get mad?
Rob Bonta, it seems like none of this has slowed his roll. He did not run for governor this last time. I'm sure this had something to do with it. But he is running for re-election for what is arguably the most powerful down-ballot statewide constitutional office in California. And that is a stepping stone for higher office. We've seen attorney generals in this state move on to bigger and better things. Kamala Harris, of course, was the attorney general before she became U.S. Senator and vice president. Javier Becerra was the attorney general before he moved on and became Secretary of Health and Human Services and now is likely to be the next governor of California. Bill Lockyer was attorney general before he became state treasurer. It's a launching pad. And I don't think Rob Bonta plans on ending his political career as a two-term attorney general. He is going to try to parlay it into something else and move on to something bigger and better. Do you think if and when he runs for U.S. Senate or governor or mayor of Oakland or whatever, that's going to be the moment where he flies too close to the sun?
He would never run for mayor of Oakland. Not as long as I live there. But yeah.
Because sometimes that's what happens with politicians. When they're in these down ballot offices, they can do whatever they want and no one pays attention. But when they get to that next level, that's when people do pay attention, and that's when all of it comes out.
I think that with AI's emerging role in civic renewal and ability to look at extremely large amounts of information to hold people more accountable in real time, where it used to take significant amounts of research, combined with the average citizen being more interested in politics than perhaps ever before. We'll see. They have a lot of control over the information. And so if Rob Bonta somehow escapes any punishment from all of his crimes in California, then I don't see any reason why he would not pursue a larger office, because that means he's being protected. And the people who are protecting him are those people who are able to fund those offices and make those selections, if you will, for people who get those positions of power.
When do you think the public is going to wake up to this? And I say that because we've had opportunities to root out this corruption. You ran for mayor of Oakland. You were kind of the Spencer Pratt before Spencer Pratt. Spencer Pratt ran for mayor of Los Angeles. Neither one of you won your election. And other people who beat the drum on similar subjects have not done well electorally in California elections. It seems like the bad behavior is rewarded and the bad actors win election and re-election. When do you think that's going to stop?
I don't know. I pray every day that people wake up and discover discernment and empathy for themselves and their fellow neighbors. But we have what I've described as the battered voter syndrome. We have an abusive relationship with people in power. And so the same steps that lead for a person being abused by their spouse or parent or anybody in a relationship to gain that agency, it's a personal decision that everyone's going to have to make. And so I'm doing everything I can across America to organize and get people fired up, to educate and then agitate them, and then organize them to hold their elected officials accountable. And I think that work is meaningful. I think that the more people who are focused in their local places on eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse in their local government, those little circles will start to overlap and we can build a revolution. It is possible, but people are going to have to grow a pair. We're going to have to find your courage before it's too late and you're forced to live in a totalitarian nightmare where someone controls everything you do. That's coming to America if we don't act soon.
One of the things I tell people when there's widespread corruption, because that creates a wake of destruction that's difficult to get around. When there is corruption and graft, what you end up with is taxes only going one way, and that is up. Because you need more money for the corruption, you need more money for the graft. And what you also end up with is problems never get solved. Because if you solve the problems, then the money goes away. And you never want that to happen. And when the problems don't get solved, your cities look third world. Your cities look like dumps because there's people living on the sidewalks, there's graffiti, there's trash being dumped everywhere, and nobody cares and nobody does anything about it. And when you do that in a one-party state, there's no one with any standing to challenge it. There's no one in law enforcement, there's no one in the media, there's no one in the opposition party. It just happens, and these people feel like they're bulletproof because they are. And all of the problems that we face in California, or many of the problems that we faced, almost all, are created by man. It's not like we were hit by a hurricane. It's not like we were hit by an earthquake. It's not like we got bombed in a war. Our problems are our own making, which means we can fix them. We just have to have the will to do it. And right now, it seems like the population just doesn't have the ability, doesn't have the backbone, doesn't have the drive to do it. But these problems are not going to get better, and they're not going to solve themselves until you do it. So it's time to just bite the bullet and get it done.
Amen. I mean, look, they're not untouchable. They're very touchable. We touched Sheng, and God is my witness. If he wills it, we're going to touch Bonta too. So they're all touchable. Nobody's untouchable. It's just a matter of getting it, seeing it through. And we proved that in Oakland by recalling our mayor and DA. They proved that in San Francisco by recalling their mayor and multiple school board members who were destroying education. So it is possible. People have to organize. Everyone needs to believe that you can do it. And building these mass movements is exactly what I'm doing across America. I'm in Nashville right now organizing to solve these problems before Nashville becomes like Oakland, California. Because if you don't think it can happen in your city, it absolutely can if you let these progressive, corrupt whack jobs take power. And they're trying to take power everywhere, aggressively.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and end it on that optimistic note. If you don't subscribe or haven't subscribed yet to the Gotham Oakland podcast, go on YouTube, click that subscribe button, like the videos, watch the videos. And if you want to know what's going on in California before it shows up in the newspaper, check out the Gotham Oakland podcast. You can follow Seneca on X at Seneca Speaks 21. Seneca, you're doing God's work. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Peace, y'all. Appreciate it.